Hello guys, and welcome back to Joe's Ventures, and today we're going to be doing another episode of our Jurassic World Evolution 2 mod spotlights, where we take a look at some of the wonderful mods people have been making and compare them to their real-life fossil counterparts. And today we've got a bit of an assortment. We've got mainly carnivores, because it's pretty much what everyone wants to make at the moment. Everyone wants to remake the carnivores. We've got Feilong's a kind of Paleo stylized remodel pack, which I'm going to be doing half now and half when the update 1.4 and when it's updated for that, because I want to add some little things in there just to not make it so carnivore focused, but I think it'd be really awesome to do that, unless we get some other mods coming before the update. But we've got a little bit of an assortment today. So as I mentioned, we have the carnivore pack, or the patio stylized carnivore pack, and then we've also got couple other little packs and one little dinosaur that we're going to be starting off with, which I'm really excited to talk about. We have got, replacing Homo cephalae, we've got Monoclonius. So let's stop and have a look at them in first person view, because these guys are so small, they fit it perfectly. So this is Monoclonius, which is a really interesting little dinosaur. These guys are a genus of Ralphodont dinosaur that's from the late Cretaceous. They lived about 80 to 85 million years ago. And while Ralphodontid is, a lot of people don't know what these are, but these are like a really early offshoot of iguanodontians. So this is a relative of animals such as iguanodon, Tyrannosaurus, but these guys. And the earliest members seem to have their date in the lower Cretaceous, so about 125 to 129 million years ago. And they're quite similar, but they're a group that only lived in Europe, and they kind of were their own little group that did their own thing. And that includes animals like Salmoxes. They kind of lived on the island of Hadseg, so they kind of became small islands as well, and also just being quite small in general. But really, really awesome animals that we got going on here. Look how beautiful these guys are. So Monoclonius itself is another very interesting animal. So this guy, as I mentioned, is from the late Cretaceous, so it's kind of one of those late surviving ones, so potentially an ancestor of Salmoxes. So this guy was found in 1859 in a coal mine in Vienna, and also been found in Austria as well. And they were originally described as a new species of iguanodon, but then actually got its own genus named Monoclonodon, which means bar tooth, because it has a bar-like ridge on its teeth. And the type species is Monoclodon suesi. And along with Ceratosaurus, these guys were found are the only dinosaur genera known from Austria. Known from Austrian fossils, I mean. And these guys, the type specimen was found in the Grunbach Formation in the Gonshu, dating back to the Campanian. It's about 80 million years ago. And it's not a very complete one, but it's got a dentary, 2 vertebrae, which is presently lost, scapula and ulna, and a femur and a tibia, so not very complete. And did not design a holotype, so this was called a Letrotype. And this has also been considered Nomodubian as kind of the same thing as Salmoxes, as I mentioned before, where M. robustus was renamed to Salmoxes. And then a study in 2005 showed there was pretty much concluded there was no unique anatomorphies, which could be established for Monoclonius in relation to Salmoxes. So it's very possible that Salmoxes spur, provincially to Salmoxes spur, and a definite identification would give Monoclonius obviously that priority, so better taxonomy for you. But yeah, really beautiful little animals here. And a second species was described from the Santonian age, so I believe a little younger, and Hungary in 2012. So really, really, really awesome little guys here. So very similar to Salmoxes. If you guys like Salmoxes, it's kind of very similar to that guy. And really, really cute. I'm sure you guys have been watching Prehistoric Planet and saw the cute little Salmoxes babies get eaten, sadly, because obviously if you watch that show, you know it's baby murder. But really, really wonderful. Really big fan of how these guys came out. NetRaptor, who made them, did a wonderful job. So that's our only new species for today, unfortunately. But now I've got lots of remakes and remasters and all that, because people just like to, since we don't have new species yet, people want to make all sorts of new models and stuff for these guys. So let's just, I don't know why you're there, just get out of the way. and then we'll be able to move on. So next we've got, this is by MrTroodon. So we have got Prehistoric Planet. It's funny I mentioned it. We've got the Triceratops from Prehistoric Planet and all its wonderful glory. So we'll release you. So let's have a look at these wonderful guys. Let's have a look at first person view. So you can get a wonderful look at these Triceratops. Look at these guys. So, as I mentioned, this is Triceratops based off Prehistoric Planet. And the cool thing about Prehistoric Planet is that they had so much variation in their horns as well. Unfortunately, you can't do variations in horns all the time, but this looks really, really nice. I believe the species in Prehistoric Planet is hardest because the main way you can tell hardest and porosus apart is kind of their nose horn or their nasal horn. It's much shorter and broader in hardest than the later porosus, which is a lot longer and a bit leaner and meaner, you know. Leaner and meaner. But really, really wonderful how this guy's come out. So we can see a lot of the changes here. Just fits much more because Prehistoric Planet is pretty much synonymous with accurate because it's based on most recent data and it's pretty recent as well, so it's pretty much the most realistic look at dinosaurs that we've had for a while. But yeah, really, really awesome, at least in the general meter, of course, but we can see some of the changes here. The tail's been made much shorter, as you can see. Much better fits with Triceratops who's having quite a short tail. Large rounded bodies, you can see, with these large thighs. Obviously, the toes a little bit better, so you can see there's still one with a nail, but I think that's just the texture. But yeah, it looks much better. And then you can see the wonderful pattern on the head. It's got a really interesting pattern, I think. It really came out nicely. And you can see some of the little large feature scales that it's got on there. And you can see these large horns modified for it. And yeah, some changes there. So it actually doesn't look too dissimilar from the one from Jurassic World Evolution, just made much, much better. And I'm a big fan of how this guy came out. I love Prehistoric Planets, and MrTroodon really did a good job at making something that looks like Prehistoric Planet. And I really hope he starts to release more mods in the future, because when he was on the Jurassic World Evolution 1 scene, it was just like some of the best mods he made. So we can't wait for new species and a lot more variations and things. That'll be very awesome to see from him, and really make some wonderful mods. So we're going to move on from these guys, our wonderful Prehistoric Planet Triceratops. You can obviously download these all for yourselves on the links that I put down there in the Nexus pages and all that. So really, really wonderful. So next we're going to get on with our carnivores by Feilong. We're going to be starting off with the Ceratosaurus and Abelisaurs. We have got Ceratosaurus. What I think we'll do is talk about this one when he moves, because I want to get him in the light. Because he looks most like the one from the movie, so I think it's a really good way to compare them both. So here, oh, that's a wonderful pose. Do you guys think that's a wonderful pose? I think that's a nice pose, but we'll have a look at him. So this is our Ceratosaurus. Pretty huge, though. The Ceratosaurus was nowhere near this big, but we'll have a good look at him here. So you can see some of the change. I think we might actually just look in camera view to get a better look. But yeah, wonderful pose for this guy. But we can see this is like a really nice remodel. This basically looks like what a Ceratosaurus should look like. So Feilong, I think, really did a wonderful job kind of remaking and rejigging this pack to really look paleo stylized. I think it came out really, really well. So we can see on the face here, Ceratosaurus is quite famous for having these big 3 horns here, and the movie was almost like just the one, but you can see he's changed the face to better reflect the 3 horns on the Ceratosaurus, which most likely were covered in keratin as well for display, things like that. He went a little bit more conservative with the keratin on it, but I think it looks rather nice. You can also see it's got a rather tall skull, very different from a lot of the other later Abelisaurids. It's got a very interesting look to it. Revere looks vaguely almost like a Tyrannosaurian almost. It's a little bit more bulkier than things like Allosaurus, but obviously a little bit quite a different animal. And you can see also here the quite thick neck he's got, and also the changes to the hands. Look at that. And Ceratosaurus actually has 4-fingered hands as well, and that really shows the difference kind of between Ceratosaurs and like Megalosaurs and Allosaurids. So they got that 4-fingered hand, so you can see that. Really interesting. Got quite a tall body like that. And see these wonderfully big legs he's got here, and you can see kind of down here the pubic boot, I mean, and you can have a look at that, and this much longer tail. Ceratosaurus actually had a pretty long tail, and they also had this really cute little row of, well, not cute, but gnarly looking osteoderms going down their body, and I think he represented that fairly well. Looks actually very nice. I'm a big fan. And yeah, this is pretty much the spot on to what Ceratosaurus would look like. So this is kind of the bar I think he set for his Paleo remodels, because this is basically spot on. It's like Ceratosaurus spot on. So I really hope he makes more of these so we can have much more scientifically accurate animals. I like the stylized one as well, but I like these more realistic ones because they still fit quite well. And I know there's got to be a little bit of stylization because of the rigs and things like that, but I think this guy fits perfectly. And really like that long tail. I know there'd been suggestions like because it lived in the Morrison and there was so many other theropods like Torvosaurus, Allosaurus living in the Morrison, these guys may have been aquatic because they had slightly stiffer tail, but I don't think that holds up very much. But still a really interesting animal, Ceratosaurus, a wonderful animal, did a wonderful job Feilong. So let's these guys move away from. I just want them to avoid coming near the hatchery. So next we've got another one of Feilong's theropods. We've got Majungasaurus. So we've got Majungasaurus. So this is a very interesting animal, if I do say so myself. So Majungasaurus is a ceratosaur as well. It's like a smaller later group called the Albertosaurus, which lived like almost because Ceratosaurus itself lived in the late Jurassic. These guys lived in the late Cretaceous. These lived at the same time as things like T-Rex and animals like that before all the non-avian dinosaurs went extinct. But we can see some of the wonderful things he's added to Majungasaurus here. So let's have a look at this one here, since he probably represents the best. So you can see this Majungasaurus has got this little spike on their head as well. And they've got these quite short and broad heads that are used for catching and killing prey. Almost vaguely like really... I like to compare them almost to like bulldog tyrannosaurs, you could say, because they're quite powerful bites. Some of them were not that strong. They were really cool and different compared to a lot of others. And there's variation within that as well. If you compare like Carnotaurus to Majungasaurus, Carnotaurus has got quite a tall skull. Lots of variation depending on what they're hunting. These guys were living on Madagascar, so it's very likely there was a lot of very interesting evolution going on there. And comparing to Carnotaurus is going to be fun as we get through. These guys also have the 4-fingered hand, as we mentioned, I believe. Though it's vestigial, so all these claws would be gone and it would be facing back like almost a little flap. That's the only thing really wrong with this one, but still really, really nice. These guys actually have really, really short legs and a really long torso and tail. Especially makes them look like a sausage, and a lot of people are really curious about that. It's probably one of those weird islands special things. Very, very interesting, but really nice animal regardless. You look at that long tail and the short legs. Very interesting looking for a dinosaur, especially compared to its relative Carnotaurus, which is very tall and long and lanky comparatively. So yeah, a lot of people are very curious about its ecology. It potentially may have been more of an ambush predator, something like that. Just a really, really nice animal to talk about and show off. See, it's got that long barrel body and that even longer tail. It even shows how long the tails actually were comparatively, because the game really makes their tails short and their feet really big and things like that. So yeah, I really like how Feilong's really managed to change the style. It's just fixing those arms there. Other than that, it would be perfect. Really, really big fan of how this Majungasaurus came out. Yeah, just a really interesting animal. So let's move on. Now we've got another belly sore, so let these guys walk out of their... now they're having a little kerfuffle. So let them move out of there. So now let's have a look at our next Abelisaur, or Ceratosaur. We've got Carnotaurus. So you can see our wonderful lad here. So let's see if we can get one in the sunlight. There we are. Here's one in the sunlight. So this is our Carnotaurus. You can see the comparison of these guys is very, very different to where is our Majungasaurus. You can see these guys have got short legs, bulky skulls. These guys look a lot more lean and mean. As you can see here, look at that. It's got quite a lean skull. These guys were potentially almost like cheetahs, you could say, though cheetahs are probably a very extreme example. These guys were adapted for eating fast prey, so potentially lots of smaller animals, things like that, and really good at chasing them. And like other Abelisaurs, as I mentioned, the arms are kind of wrong there. They would have been sticking out, like I mentioned, a Majungasaurus. But you can see the difference here. These guys have much more thin skulls. And you can see these large horns here. I really like how he's enlarged them because a lot of people underestimate the amount of keratin on structures like that. The general rule is typically half of the bone core. So it'd be like the bone core and then like another half, and then you have kind of your minimum extent of the keratin. It's a very general rule, though, obviously. You don't need to follow it to the T. But you can see some of the wonderful changes here. Ceratosaurus has also got quite a long neck as well, and quite a skinny body, but like rounded, so it's like a long oval. As you can see here, they've got the pubic boot up this way, and they've got these really long legs where, as I mentioned, they were adapted for chasing prey rather than probably ambushing the same way Majungasaurus was. Very lithe and fast predator. And also, you could also argue, since the only specimen that we really have of Carnotaurus is not a fully grown one, probably a juvenile, you could argue that potentially it got a bit bulkier with age, though we really have no way of telling since we don't have an adult. And one of the very interesting things that, if changing the texture, is that there was just a study published recently on, I think I mentioned this a couple times because I know we have dozens of these carnivore remakes on all the time. We have a pretty good skin from Carnotaurus as well, and it showed that these didn't have these osteoderms along the side. They were like large irregular scales across the entire body, and it's believed that these were for thermoregulation, or better able to help the animal control its body temperature. They actually often compare it to things like elephants, which are also large and have that kind of similar skin pattern and stuff. So the reason that they assume this, because these guys were large, living in a hot environment, and they were potentially warm-blooded as well. Most dinosaurs generally are considered to be warm-blooded these days. So being that big and being that active and being running hot all the time, they really needed a way to cool down. So these large scales would help draw heat into the skin and draw them away from the body. So it really would help their body keep cool and prevent them from overheating. So yeah, I think that's a really cool little fact. And I love that we can know so much about dinosaurs now, especially with how well we know Carnotaurus with its skin now. And it's just such a wonderful animal. Really, really awesome. And yeah, it's nice that Feilong really made a good effort to make a more accurate one in the game. See, look, they just look so much more like real animals. And I think a lot of people really appreciate modders for doing that, because people like seeing real animals. And not a lot of people are getting too keen on the movie monsters these days. People are really asking for really nice, cool-looking, accurate dinosaurs, and I just love the Ceratosaurus. Really looks wonderful. But yeah, that's a bit of a tangent, but yeah, all these wonderful Abelisaurs and all these guys, wonderful. All done by Feilong, who's really done a wonderful job with all that. So next we're going to move on to Megalosaurs. So we've got the Type 1 Megalosaurus. Really, really awesome. So we've got Megalosaurus bucklandi, a really, really wonderful guy here. So let's have a look, so you can see how long the tail, he's made the tail much longer. These guys are also quite big, 8 or 9 meters long with 2.4 meter hip height. So quite big animals. and you can see some of the changes here, especially on the face. Megalosaurs typically have a very boxy face, or almost very Tyrannosaur. You can see that here, so you can see how very boxy these guys are. Especially Torvosaurus, which is a Megalosaur. They were almost like the T-Rex before the T-Rex. They got very long and boxy skulls. And I really like how they still kept some aspects of the design, especially the little spikes there and all that. Really, and especially the face here. It looks much more accurate to the specimen, but still has that aspect of the design, which I think looks much nicer. You can see they've also got this longer neck, the big S-curve neck, with a lot of this loose skin hanging down here. That's really nice. And like other megalosaurs, these guys have quite big arms still. They have these large first claw, and the second and third claw are much smaller. One thing also to remember is that these guys include Spinosaurids. So Spinosaurids are kind of a smaller, more specialized type of megalosaur. So you can almost kind of see that with that long skull and the large claws. You can almost kind of see the beginnings of a Spinosaurid like Baryonyx or Spinosaurus. So that's also really interesting. We've got this very long, boxy body. Most dinosaurs are very similar in their body plan in terms of this, especially theropods. They typically have a very oval or squarish body, and Megalosaurus doesn't really truly deviate from that too much. And then you have this very, very long tail, which would act as a wonderful counterbalance to counter the weight of the front body and the large head that they've got. So a lot of dinosaurs, yeah, it really just shows that a lot of the dinosaurs just have two short tails in this game. And yeah, it just really looks wonderful. I really like how this Megalosaurus came out. And I think he's got lips, or maybe it's just not how it... Lips are also very cool. It's just, I think they all got their mouths open when I paused it. But yeah, really, really awesome. Another knockout of the park for Feilong. I really hope he does more of these paleo stylized ones, because I'd love to cover these. And yeah, awesome, awesome, awesome. So let's move on from you and move on to some Tyrannosaurs. So we've got the last two of the Feilong pack, and then we've got a really cool Tyrannosaurus that we'll go over again. So we've got Qianzhousaurus, another paleo edit by Feilong. Oh, we want to move out of there. Okay, so let's have a look at the one in the sun. Ooh. So Qianzhousaurus, a really wonderful animal here, so you can see some of the changes here. These guys were almost the opposite of like your stereotypical large Tyrannosaurus. These guys were lithe predator. They're in their own group called the Alioraini, which is another family of Tyrannosaurids similar to Alioramus. In those kind of groups, they were almost like a lithe and more almost like cheetah-like to the jaguar-type body plan of the T-Rex being big and robust. These guys were leaner and meaner. So very, very cool. And then you can see, what really gives it away is you can see it's got 2 fingers. So pretty much all Tyrannosaurs have 2 fingers, minus the one that's hidden. Really, really awesome there. So you can see the long skull he's got. Really, really awesome. And I really like this. It really does look like a Chinese dragon in the design. I think it looks really awesome with the little spikes going down there and the wrinkled skin. I think they actually come out rather nice. So you can see that quite long skull and long neck, lithe, mean machine. And they've got pretty big arms compared to Tyrannosaurus, though they're not very large compared to most other dinosaurs. They've got large with the 2 claws there. Really, really wonderful. They've got a quite roundish body, as you can kind of see here. Much more round and compact compared to a lot of other dinosaurs. And then you can see kind of the pubic boot goes down there and then up here. And they've also got that long tail there. So that would help them when they're running and counterbalancing. And then you can see these legs. They haven't got quite as... they got long muscular legs, but not as wide and thick as something like a T-Rex. These guys were definitely pursuit predators, lean and mean, being as light as possible so they can run fast. And they got this really wonderful feet there. Yeah, just looks spot on. It almost looks like a real dinosaur. And I think Feilong's also done a wonderful job with this guy. I think this is up there with the Ceratosaurus, actually. So I'm really excited to see more of these more paleo edits. So basically just a normal paleo edit rather than a stylized one from Feilong. I've got to say that again. I've got to keep saying it because I want it. I want it. I want it. Because these are really awesome. So last but not last, but second to last, We've got a last edit from Feilong. We've got Albertosaurus. So look at this wonderful guy here. So you can have a look at the comparison here. Uh, this one's in the light, so this is a better comparison. You can see they've got that Albertosaurine look. They're almost like the in-between from the big T-Rex crunches and the long kind of jaws of the Qianzhousaurus as we're looking at over there. They're very, very different in that regard. They're almost like in the middle. They still have quite powerful jaws. They were more adapted for biting more spiky prey animals such as ceratopsians and Kylosaurs, but not quite as specialized as something like Tyrannosaurus. Tyrannosaurus is kind of that extreme, but you can see he's got a much more rounded skull, and they've also got this really cool characteristic little crest there. I really like in this one they kind of added more keratin to it, so it kind of sticks even more faithful to the original design as well. So that looks really, really nice. I'm a big fan. And then you also have this quite S-shaped neck that a lot of dinosaurs have, and a lot of flesh under there. Really looks nice. The big jaws and big muscles to power those wonderful jaws. And I really like this lippage that he added here. It looks really, really nice. You know, I'm a big fan of lippage. And you can see the wonderful keratin extension on the crest there. And the keratin there, because it's really cool to give these dinosaurs wonderful displays. And you can see they've on the process they've got the smaller arms, not quite as small as Tyrannosaurus, but still quite small. And they've got the two-fingered hand that's very characteristic of the Tyrannosaurid group. These guys also got quite a compact body. Let's say this one's probably gives you a slightly better look. Quite round with these large legs. See, look, these large thighs and calves that would help to power it. These guys were kind of in between, as I mentioned. They were still quite adept runners and walkers, but not quite as fast as Qianzhousaurus, and not that type of ecology, but not as slow as and methodical as something like a Tyrannosaurus. Because Tyrannosaurus has some special adaptations actually in its metatarsals, or the bones in like the the wrist, like in the hand, and that allows it to actually walk much more efficiently. I think I should be mentioning this when we're talking about Tyrannosaurus, but it allows them to walk much more efficiently over long distances. So that's a really interesting adaptation that T-Rex had. So would have been helpful for pursuing prey and wandering around for prey. And yeah, they also got this long tail with the large muscles in there. That would have been very helpful for running around. So yeah, I really think this guy's come out rather nicely. Really, really awesome dinosaur we got going on here. So let's them run off and do their thing. And last but certainly not least, we got MrTroodon back again for part of his Prehistoric Planet little mini pack. He remade Hank the Tank, you know, everyone's favorite big Tyrannosaurus, and made him for Jurassic World Evolution 2. So let's have a look at him. So let's have a look at you now. So here's Hank the Tank. Look at this wonderful guy. Look at how wonderful they look. So this is Hank the Tank, everyone's favorite prehistoric planet T-Rex. Well, there's more than Hank. There's kind of three. There's the female, the old male, and the young male with his babies. So you can see this wonderful guy here. Really, really awesome. You can see he's really changed the skull. It's kind of not one-to-one, so I think the Saber one's a little bit more accurate to the movie. This one's kind of more stylized to fit Jurassic Park a little better, but it's obviously nice to have different choices for people who want it. But I think this guy's come out rather nicely, because Hank the Tank's quite a powerful, so you can see this kind of more of a skin really, but wonderful red eyes there. Skull looks much more like the JP T-Rex than a more accurate T-Rex, but still looks nice regardless. Big neck and all the two fingers, I mean, and the wonderful big toes that they've got. It's interesting that these guys are such similar to birds, and they kind of how they move. You can see they got the toes tucked in and they splay it out. So really, really interesting. Got that round compact body, so weighing multiple tons, 6 to 9 tons. Very, very big animals. Very large limbs here as well. See, look at all that muscle for moving around, and a very long tail. So very, very big animals. Really just loved Tyrannosaurus. So this is another version of Hank. I think the Hank one's just been really taking the world by storm. And one thing I'd really like to see is, since we can do model variants now and all that, I'd really love to see a model of the juveniles with the feathers, since we're getting the Pyroraptor and a lot of animals with feathers and the Dominion pack, which is just coming out next week, so that'll be awesome. And I'll definitely be covering that, so I really hope to see that, and more feathers and all that. I think once feathers and new species are added, I think Jurassic World Evolution 2 modding is really going to go wild. So I think that's awesome, and wonderful job for MrTroodon to really created his own spin on Hank, and I think it actually came out rather nicely. So if you guys are looking for something a little bit more JP stylized, I think this is perfect for you guys. And yeah, I think really wonderful job for MrTroodon. So let's let them walk off and do their thing. So yeah, I think this is a great place to end the video. So I really, really, really hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you guys like and subscribe. Always remember to hit the little bell icon to get notified of learning anything. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Hope you guys like and subscribe, and bye-bye.